Good evening. Welcome to Skeptics in the Pub Online. Glad that so many of you have joined us again. If this is your first time, let me give you a short introduction of who we are, what we do, and then we'll get on to our talk very quickly. We are a collection of organizers of Skeptic in the Pubs meeting locally in various places around the UK and in Europe. And we've come together 3 years ago with all the COVID kerfuffle to start doing these talks online as a replacement. Now it's been almost 3 years. We're approaching our 100th talk and we're still going. So thank you to everyone who's kept with us through all this time. During this time, beyond the talks, we created a little community that maybe I would like to introduce to those of you who aren't aware. The main portal to get to the community is our webpage, SitP.online. On there, you will find reference to our upcoming shows, which we have every second and fourth Thursday of a month. You will also find records about talks we had in the past, and you will find a lot of other information. For example, details on how to join our virtual pub called the Lock-ins Razor, which normally opens after our talks, or in weeks when there isn't a talk, it will open at 8:30 p.m. UK time. You also will find references to our podcast, where we are publishing our talks in an audio-only format. You'll find references to our YouTube channel, where we have a big archive of most of our talks from the past. Of course, our social media references, details how to join our Discord server, and the always important link to our merchandise. Our talk today will be quite simple in structure. I will introduce our speaker next, and then we'll have a talk of about 45, a little bit longer, minutes. After that, we'll have a 15-minute break, and then we'll do a Q&A session. I already would like to invite you now to enter questions for the Q&A session. We've got a dedicated link for that, which you will find at sitp.online/ask. I repeat that, sitp.online/ask. Our moderators in the Twitch chat will also copy this paste repeatedly throughout the talk. So if you've got a question, put it on there. If you don't have a question yourself, have a look nevertheless, because you will have an opportunity to upvote the questions that interest you most. And that will always make it easier for us to make sure that the questions that most people want to hear will be answered during the Q&A. That's about it organizationally. Let's talk about tonight's speaker. Tonight, we're going to put another tick on our map of where speakers are coming from. We'll have our first Austrian speaker. Tonight, we're welcoming Ulrike Schiesser, who studied psychology and psychotherapy in Vienna. And next to her work in adult education and coaching, she also has got plenty of experience in counseling around subjects like LGBTQ+ and religious cults. At the moment, or I think for the last 10 years, she's been working at what's called Bundesstelle für Sektenfragen, which translates as Office for Cult Affairs, which is a federal office providing information and counseling with regards to matters of religious sects and worldviews. For those of you who didn't know, Austria is a federal state. Something new you've learned tonight. She actually is director of this office since January 2023, so congratulations.
Thank you.
In 2021, she published a book. And the English translation of this book with a title of Fact and Prejudice, How to Communicate with Esoterics, Fanatics, and Conspiracy Believers will be published hopefully soon. Amazon claims it's the 30th of March 2023, but it seems they might know more than the author in this case. Yeah. So we'll have to see what is the actual truth. In recent times, I've learned to always look up Wikipedia entries for our speakers. And that was very informative this time around, as I found out she actually has even an entry in the International Movie Database, based on her participation in Austrian TV on these various discussion panels, and her participation also in some German language switch channels, like, for example, a quite popular one called Ferngespräche. So all in the chat, please give a happy and friendly welcome to our speaker tonight, Ulrike Schiesser.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. And I'm going to start my presentation, and I want to take you with me in a voyage down the rabbit hole. And first, I want to tell you a little bit about my working place. So we are called Bundesstelle für Sektenfragen, and we are one of the very few institutions who are really state-run and are dealing with cult and cult-similar movements. And a lot of our work is about esoteric and also conspiracy theory. So whenever people think that sounds like a cult, it's a bit cult-like, then they call us. And that's because we are state-run. We have this very impressive and very unpractical logo. When people call us, the question is very often, why do people believe irrational things? Why do they believe in their guru? And how can I get them out of this group? This is very often the question we are asked. And in terms of conspiracy theories, it's often that your counterpart is very aggressive, very emotional, and the discussions are difficult. And the normal way to reply or to act is to use logic, to use facts, to give information. And the hope always is that with good information, people will think this through, and then they say, yes, you're right. You have the better arguments. And you can even believer in God could be an atheist. So, but it doesn't work this way. We always hope that they would shed their ideology and they would come out as a skeptic and interested in science if you just give them good information. What happens in reality is that our counterpart is not impressed and often also quite aggressive or disinterested. So it feels like talking to a wall, and all our very good arguments are lost and for nothing. The reason why it is this way is that people are not logical in the way they build their belief systems, and we act not out of really logical reasoning, but out of emotion and out of social, out of the social group we are in. But our cognitive hardware is deeply flawed. So we have a lot of ways how we how we have difficulty to remember correctly, to reason correctly, to get so we are deeply unlogical, deeply emotional people, and even our perception is not really trustworthy. So if you see the two gray circles, they are exactly in the same size, but if you look at them, it looks like they are different. And I have checked quite a lot of times. They are really the same size. So you can't even trust your own eyes. You can't trust your senses. Or rather your brain. So never trust your brain. Now let's go to conspiracy theories. Conspiracy theories create a world of good and bad, a simplified world. You have on one side, you have the family, you have nature, you have your home country. And on the other side, there is everything that might be wrong with the world. So there is technologies, especially new technologies. There's globalization. There are all kinds of things people are afraid of. And they create this world of good versus bad. And as someone who believes, is a conspiracy believer, you are always a hero. And the bigger the dragon is, the more you are important, and you are brave, and you save the world, and the rest of the world are these sheep, but the sheeple, and you are the one who is fighting for them. And on the other hand, you're not alone. If you believe in conspiracy theories, there's always a group you belong to, you can feel connected with. And you see the motto of QAnon, this where we go one, we go all. It's inclusive in this group. So we are not alone. We are together, and you might get a lot of problems with your in non-believers, but in this group you are welcome. You get a lot of positive reinforcement. The conspiracy theories that are more problematic always use children. So this is one sign how to recognize the kind of stories, the kind of narratives that are more problematic. Children are very practical if you want to get the most emotion out of your audience. If children are in danger, it's very difficult to stay indifferent. So it's good to get people's attention. It's rousing their emotions, and you feel like, oh God, I have to save the children. And if you can convince someone that children are in danger, it can go so far that they easier use violence, because if the enemy is so evil that it's killing children, then every weapon, everything is all right to fight against this kind of enemy. Interestingly enough, the kind of dangers to the children are often very much aligned with your own political belief systems. And you see here a quite interesting mixture where you find the LGBTIQ movement in the same place, like pornography, like Satan, or like CRT, as a critical race theory, means that the concept of race is a social concept and not a biological one. And you see in all these all the ones who make the material. It's always interesting with conspiracy theory. Look at who made these pictures and who is trying to broadcast their political view. What do they want? What is their political agenda? And with conspiracy narrative, there is always an agenda. It might be to get money. You can make a lot of money out of conspiracy narratives because you make you see the people are afraid, and people who are afraid are more willing to buy something to help them, or more willing to donate something to you. So it's either an financial gain, or it could also be a political, or it is about some narcissistic position of I'm important. I get a lot of attention because of it. Conspiracy theories create order in a world that is chaotic and unpredictable. But in these stories, you always see patterns. One of these patterns might be that you can look out for satanic influence. You find satanic influence in the number 666. So you just have to look where you can find this number 666, and then you know this Satan is behind it. So it's a quite simple strategy, and you can suddenly the whole world is could make sense. It's like a puzzle. It's also interesting to find the solution to this puzzle. And our brain loves this kind of patterns. Our brain is always seeking patterns. In this case, the patterns are that they in accidental figures, they seek faces. So we are very good at finding faces, and it's not possible to not see the faces here. So in a lot of ways, we don't like chaotic systems and unpredictable systems. So we always try to find some kind of order. You can find order. If you look for it, you will find it everywhere. One point is you can look for Illuminati, and wherever you find the pyramid form or the eye, you can say, okay, no, this is made by the Illuminati. And this is very practical. You can even do the Illuminati diet. And it's one I can highly recommend. It's really, I think it's well thought out, and seems to be a good thing. And conspiracy narratives are really good stories. They are the better stories. The film Matrix is like the mothership of these conspiracy narratives. They use it a lot. They love it a lot. They use the red pilling as a sign of waking up in a different world and see the truth. And it's quite a fascinating concept that all that we see is not real, and there is a meaning behind everything we see. So that's quite fascinating to us. And conspiracy narratives are always interesting narratives, a lot more interesting than the reality is. But even here, you see, it's not for everyone going down the rabbit hole. So, but the most important part is how can you change somebody's mind? We have seen a few of the reasons why people believe in conspiracy narratives, why they are so attractive to a lot of people. But how can we reach them? How can we maybe change their mind? Well, changing someone's mind is something, it sounds quite good when we're talking about other people. But on the other hand, when was the last time someone changed your mind about something? And please ask yourself, when you think about really fundamental attitudes, not so everyday beliefs, but really deep fundamental attitudes, political, religion attitudes, social political convictions, someone who is a very important person for you, a role model. Have you ever changed these fundamental attitudes because of a discussion? If you have experienced some kind of change, maybe someone had, maybe you've lost a religion, or you started believe in something, or you changed your political attitude. Why did you do that? What was the thing that convinced you? And how long did it take? Was it something that happened from one day to the other, or did it take some time? Was there anything anyone could have done to make that happen sooner? What persons or experience were important for this kind of changing of your worldview? And is there a relation to phases of your life? So maybe that happened in puberty, or after you left your home and went to university, or when you started a new relationship or ended a relationship, or went to a different kind of job. So in what phases of your life and through what triggers did you change fundamental attitudes? If we had now a free, open discussion, I would go into this point a bit more in depth, because it's a very interesting thing. We often talk about how to change other people's mind, but very seldom we think about how did we change it in the course of our life. What was convincing to us, or how could now somebody change our lives? What could anybody do or say that we would give up our fundamental views? Normally, I do this kind of talks a lot with people who come out of cults, and sometimes people who have been in extremistic movements, right or left-wing movements. And I always talk to them about what changed their mind, how long did it take, what was important. And normally it goes down to this point. It's always a personal experience that was the trigger. It's not some discussion or what somebody said to them, but they had some experience that was very important for them. It could be that they reached a personal tolerance limit. For an example, they were in a group, and the group got more and more extreme, and then they started to talk about using violence, and they said, no, this is the point where I cannot go any further. I lose faith in this group. It could also be that they simply had a new focus in life. So they might have been unemployed before, and then they got a new job environment, and they wanted to be part of this new in-group, and little by little they change their whole attitude. Or often it is when they leave the parents' home and go to study somewhere, or start to work in another place, and they get a complete new ideas about the world than they had in their home and a family. And this might be really life-changing. And it could also be that, in one way or other, your peer group is changing, and you want to be part of this peer group. Then you change also your opinions. Some positive role models might play an important role, and it's not often just something this person says, but the whole package, the whole way this person is influencing you, and these changes happen almost always slowly. It's always very small steps, and most people told me it has taken years. There might be a last point where it looks like it is a quick change, but they always say this was quite a long time that I have been fighting with myself. I have been struggling with this, and it took quite some time. And it's more complicated because people are ashamed when they change their mind, especially about conspiracy narratives, because these are sometimes really strange things, and when they distance them from it, they are ashamed about ever believing that. And they say, can I trust myself? Can I trust my own decision making anymore? So if you talk to someone in whatever kind of mindset, there is no fundamentally right way to do it. There's no strategies that will always work. It is something that must fit to the situation, but it must also fit to you as a person. And it must be authentic. It's not possible to use some sort of fixed questions or some fixed model. It works if it works for you as a person, and if you as a person can reach another person on a human level. And sometimes it's even better to end a conversation than so more is not always better. Sometimes it's better to stop it before you really get into a fight. And some people are really it's not able to reach them. You have to see your own limitations. And it's always different, the context and the relationship you have to this person. It's different if you act as a brother, if you are the major in a small village, if you're a hospital department handled, a social worker, police officer. These are different kind of social roles and different kinds of relationship, and they need a different approach. You can use de-escalation strategies, or you can go more into confrontation. It always relates to the situation. The most important thing for me is that you go into a discussion not as a preacher, but with the mindset of an explorer. Nobody loves a preacher. Nobody is interesting that you tell them how the world is, and you won't reach people if you go into it as you are the one who knows everything, and you have to you have to convince others of the one real way. Even if you are absolutely right, even if the other person is wrong and you are right, it doesn't help you. These kind of discussions are very seldom they are seldom successful. And I always talk about people about the core belief systems, not about the small things. In the small things, you might say, "Hey, no, you're not right." But in the really, when it's about the more important worldviews, then it won't help you that you're right. It's more helpful if you are friendly and if the other person likes you. This will support you and your trustworthiness a lot. If you, if someone likes you, all what you say will have more, will reach more further. More pressure results in more counter pressure. So it's not helpful to talk louder, to have more arguments. It's not helpful. More is not better. The aim is to create small cracks in a worldview. You won't get more than that. Just a little nudge, and that might have a long-lasting effect, but you won't see that. You will never see a quick result, and never expect to see the results directly in the discussion. Directly in a discussion, people always say, no, you are totally wrong. No, I'm sure this is not this way. We try to keep faith and think of yourself when you're in a discussion with someone. How often have you said, wow, this is really a good point. I have to think about, I might be totally wrong. Normally, we just automatically go on the counter attack. We automatically defend our opinions. And maybe afterwards we start to think and say, maybe she was right, maybe. And so it could be that we change our mind, but it seldom happens immediately. And so you often won't see the results of your impact or of a discussion. You could encourage more differentiation. So you can always point out when someone is too simple in these concept of the enemy. Well, in German it's Feindbild. I'm not sure if it's the goodest translation. So if someone sees the world as black and white, you need all policemen are like this, all Jewish people are like this. So you could always point out that this is a lot too simple. And it's helpful to search for a kind of common ground. So to point out the point where what is this kind of world where I can still agree. You can agree that there is corruption in the world, and there is maybe some networks of powerful people, and big companies do have maybe a lot of power and can influence politics, and that is always important to be critical, to be aware of this. So this is the part where you might agree, but then it's starting to differentiate. Fanatics always want to preach and to proselytize. I have to admit, I have no idea what this word means, so I blame Google Translate, so whatever it means. Fanatics want to dominate a discussion. They try to they try to get you on a stage and make you look bad. So because whatever knowledge you have in a topic, they always know more, or they always have some things you can't really counteract. And it's also a bit like it's also about the power, about letting you look bad, about sometimes you are just the punching bag for their frustration. And if you engage on the level of factual discussions, they are often fruitless. This often is not. You won't come any further. So what I do, I always stick to my own expertise and my area of responsibility. So people often want to talk to me about vaccinations, or I don't enter this kind of discussions. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a biologist. All my information is secondhand, and I don't try to start putting my half knowledge about the half knowledge against the half knowledge of some other people. So, what I talk about is about how I get this information. What is my information sources? Who do I trust? So what is the quality of information? That's something I can talk about. So I can talk, okay, you believe this person on YouTube. Why do you believe him? Why would you also buy a car? Because he is recommending it. So in other important decisions, how do you get your information? If you buy a house, or if you want to sign a contract, would you also go to Instagram for help? Why not? And I can tell about what is my strategy to find good information. So it's always you yourself as a role model. This is more effective than individual arguments. This does not mean that you can't stop someone in cases of aggression and insults. That's not it's not helpful. So if someone is really aggressive, end the discussion. So give respect, but also demand respect from your counterpart. And always show solidarity with victims of hate messages and targets of conspiracy theories. That might be online. It could also be that someone like a doctor or like a journalist gets a lot of aggression, and then really to help them, or just tell them, hey, how are you? Do you need some help? I got some very, for some time I get a lot of, threats, even death threats and things like that. And it's always helpful for me to have, especially colleagues, people who about in my same kind of profession, and if they help me, if they say, hey, we find it's good what you do you need something, can I help you? This is very important, because otherwise there will be less and less people talking openly against violence or against conspiracy theory and untruths. When someone is violating boundaries, always stop them. And there should be consequences, if possible, also legal consequences. Otherwise, it will spread wider and wider. And especially conspiracy narratives should not go unchallenged. Whenever it is in the public is also Facebook discussion or something. Don't give the impression that you are of the same opinion. So you don't have to engage in a long battle, but just write, I don't believe that. I think this is a conspiracy theory. Otherwise, they always believe that they speak for the silent majority. And extremism also drives on the fact that there's a very loud minority. There are not that many people sometimes, but they're very loud and they get a lot of attention. And sometimes it's the better strategy not to give them this attention, to ignore them, to don't give them the stage, don't feed the troll. On the other hand, if you want to get in contact with the person, if you want to reach them, it's better to address the common complexity dilemma. So we are all not experts. In most things in the world, we are not experts. We all have to believe what other people say. So who do we trust? How do we find good sources and stop discussing content, but discuss the sources? Why do you trust this? How do you get your information? So the question, who do you trust? I think that's the real important question behind not only conspiracy narratives, but also when you talk about science, or it's the world as a general. We have the world as a whole. It's a very complex world. We are not able to really understand even a small part of it. And it's a lot about trust. And if people are afraid, or if people don't trust in your medical doctor or in science or some scientific views, you also have to ask why, and how can we help people to trust more? And this is a psychological topic. Sometimes it's also fine in a conversation to go to the meta level. So how can we talk to each other without fighting? How can we succeed in a good discussion? Or you can address the person's views generally. You say, wow, I think this sounds all very negative. For you, everyone is a murderer, a cheater. The government wants to kill you. It must be quite difficult to live in your kind of way. So, how do you bear this? How do you live with that? So, not to go into the different kind of conspiracy narratives, but look at what does it do to the person to live with this kind of worldview. It's a very negative one. People get often more depressive and more anxious. So address this. I think since you have been in this conspiracy theory scene, I have the impression it's like an addiction. You are sitting hours and hours in front of the TV or in front of the computer. I think it's not good for you. So this on this level, you might be more able to reach a person. Yeah, and often it's better to ask questions than to give lectures. Some questions is what could convince you? What could convince you that you have been taken in by a conspiracy myth? If the other person says nothing at all, then it's there's the end of discussion. But the question might stay with the person. They might sometimes with a good question has more impact than a good argument. It's longer lasting. It works in a slower but longer lasting way. Yes, talk about the solutions. Yeah, well, how could we? What would be good? What would help out of that? How many people would have to be involved? Why is everyone silent? Who benefits from it? Justice and honesty are so important to you, but how do you make sure that you are not used? That not someone uses you for their agenda? What relevance does it have? Or talk about yourself. Talk about when you have been caught up in an ideology and how you changed your position. One way to learn or to train this kind of conversation is street epistemology. There is a lot of material about it, and people who also meet on Discord and other ways to train this kind of conversation. The goal is to help someone to reflect their own opinions. And that's always a good way to start with your very own opinions, to see what's the basis of my opinions. Look at the motives and consequences. So I always ask in counseling, tell me about this person. How is he doing in his life? Is he socially, financial? Does he have a good social network? Does he have health concerns? Whether experience or loss of control, disadvantage, injustice. Someone who has experienced injustice is a lot more easier to believe in conspiracy narratives. What could be the personal motivations? For some people, it's they are really, for them is control of power or freedom very important. Some want to be good parents, and that's why they are more easily able to believe conspiracy theories about vaccination, because they for them it's so important to be to do the right as good parents. Then it's easier to expect to reach them in this way, to say, I see that you have read so many material because you want to be a good parent. This is you want to be a good mother, a good father. That's why you have been so much so have done so much research about this topic. And this is the part you can reach them maybe and say, yeah, because you want to be a good mother, I have some other things I want to show you. Yeah, why is it relevant for this person? And what would the person lose if he or she gave it up? Sometimes it's filling for them. It gives them purpose. It gives them focus in their life. It gives them a group they belong to. They would lose it if they lose this opinion, and they won't give it up because of that. In family and friends, it's often the most important part not to lose contact, because family is often the last place where you have to get involved with people who are not of the same opinion. That's not easy, but it's for all, also for yourself. It's not so easy because in families you have to discuss and you have to live with quite sometimes not so, quite different worldviews that you might never have in your own friends, in your friend group. So if it's someone in your family, concentrate on the relationship. See that the relationship is not, that you're not always talking just about this conspiracy narrative. Concentrate on positive activities. See that there is part of the relationship that is not always under the shadow of this discussion. Leave it out sometimes. Also work on your own tolerance muscles. So work on it also that in a way you have to accept that people believe different things. And see that you don't, that you see the person not only in light of this ideology. That's not so easy, I know, because often you lose a lot of they leave a lot of credibility. You see, I'm ashamed of this person, and if you're ashamed of someone, this is the worst thing that can happen to a relationship. I hear that a lot with conspiracy narratives. That some people say, I'm ashamed of my husband. I don't want to go out with him to our friends. But also set boundaries if your family member is very aggressive in a side of missionary behavior and sending you a lot of links, and then it's important to put boundaries and say this is not okay. Also to address if some attitudes are really problematic. If something is anti-Semitic, anti-democratic, say it like it is. But also always accept the limits of your own responsibility. These are grown-up people, and you cannot change them in their mind or change their mind. You simply can't. So, like other people cannot easily change your mind. And don't mock, don't shame. This is never helpful, even if it's sometimes a defense mechanism, but it's not helpful. And have patience. Family is always a marathon and not a sprint, so you will be together for a very long time, and you might see the change in the worldviews, but it will take a long time and might not come at all. So we come to the end. This is one e-learning module I wanted to show to you. It will be released hopefully in the next 1 or 2 months. I've been a part of a group of the European. It's a project for the European Commission, and I was part of the group who set this up. It's a learning module and will take maybe one and a half hour, and family members can click through this and get information about how to deal with it. They can build their own strategy, you know, how to deal with their own relatives. There's also some films, some way we used some actors to how it feels like in this situation with relatives in conspiracy narratives. So it will, when it's ready, it will be put up on this homepage Academy Europe EU. So last we have reached the advertisement part, the most important one. I've written a book with Holm Hümmler, Fact and Prejudice. The German one is already out, and the English one should be published in spring. And as you see with the picture, with the Fact and Prejudice, how to communication with esoterics. So you see even on the front page, we have quite some some mistakes in in the translation, and so we have to put some more work into it. And hopefully it should come out soon. And you have done it. We're finally done.
And thank you very much, Ulrike. I hope the Twitch chat is going crazy now. Thank you very much for a very engaging talk. I think we all enjoyed this. So we're going to have a break in a moment, and afterwards we'll answer some of your questions. I can't help, but I think some people might be of the impression that I overdid it with advertising the link to ask questions. But I'll tell you what, in for a penny, in for a pound, I'll do it again. I hate it when somebody gives out links and does it too quickly for me to remember. So if you want to put a question, or if you want to vote up some of the questions that already have been asked, the link is sitp.online/ask. We'll now have a 15-minute break. We'll be back at 5 minutes past 8 UK time. See you then. Thank you. Welcome back. I hope you all made it in time. You're all refreshed. Let's get this going. Short reminder, after the Q&A, when we're done here, we will open our virtual pub. The logins razor will open as every time we have a talk right immediately afterwards. If you need to find the access details, they will be published once again in our Twitch chat, and you will also find them on our website, SitP.online. Just search for virtual pub. Good. Let's have a look at the questions. Where do I have them? Here. Okay, first question comes from Cleo tonight. How do we square not letting these views go unchallenged with do not feed the troll? There is a kind of discrepancy here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a problem that you always have to see this both sides. When do I go? When do I engage? When do I don't engage with someone? It might depend on if it's in public or not. If I'm a teacher in front of a school class and someone is saying, I don't know, what about 9/11? I have to judge if this is someone who just wants attention, and I talk the whole hour about this topic. Then I give them a lot of room. I give them a lot of power. I give them a lot of recognition. So it's counterproductive. On the other hand, to say this is a conspiracy theory, we don't talk here like that. This is a non-topic. I don't want to talk about this anymore. So this is not giving them the
stage.
The stage. So and you have to decide according to the situation and the people you are involved with.
Okay, I think the subject of when do you argue with somebody and when do you argue about a subject in front of a larger audience, there will be quite a few questions about this coming up. So I think our next question already deals with this. It's coming from Igor, and he's asking, do you think we should communicate differently to people trying to change their mind versus trying to change the minds of those who are witnessing the conversation?
If it's public discussion, it's always the same. You are in real. You talk for all the people who are listening. You will never reach your counterpart in a discussion. That's if you're on TV, for example. It's not about changing the mind of the people with you in the discussion group. That won't happen. But you have to always think about our audience. It's always about the audience. So in And that's in ways also on the social media. So it's more important to give some signals or some point of view to other readers than to the person you are talking to.
Yeah. Along those same lines, there is the next step you could take, and Igor's question is about this. Do you think there is a merit in shaming and ridiculing one person to make an example of them so other people will abandon such beliefs?
No, never. You reach this is absolutely the opposite of what you reach, because people are more they will be sympathetic towards the one who is shamed, and it's more likely that they will support them than to support you.
It's almost like creating a martyr.
Yeah. So you will reach the absolute the opposite.
Okay. Different tack of questions now. Bremner asks, how could you do research on a subject like how to talk to conspiracists? Are there any ethical issues?
I don't do research. I'm not a scientist, and I don't do research. I'm a therapist. So my experience comes out of hundreds and hundreds of sessions I did with people. So I talk to a lot of relatives, and we analyze what have they tried, what did work, what did not work. Mm-hmm. And I talk to people who have changed their minds sometimes in quite radical ways. And that's the most interesting thing, because they always tell you what worked for them and what did not work. So that's where my my work comes from. It's not really a scientific approach.
Okay. So Bremner is asking a follow-up question here. So is there actually any kind of evidence base for effectiveness of these methods, or if there is, how strong is it?
I can't think of a study or something like that. I only know that in the whole community of de-radicalization. So I'm in conferences and in talks about people who work with right wing, left wing, and also religious extremism. Mm-hmm. It's always the same. So you hear always the same kind of tips, or the same kind of experiences in what works and what doesn't work. I'm not sure. I can't quote right now some scientific work.
Okay, good. We've got a question from Serdar, who asks, what do you think about the extent to which we can push our ethical boundaries, which means, for example, using fear tactics against parents who deny vaccines to their children?
I think you have to be very careful to not to overstep, because if they feel first you have to find a connection to them. You have to say, yeah, I understand your problem. You want to be a good mother. You want to be a good father. You have done so much work. You've read so much things because it was so important to you. I understand it, and I really want to help you in this goal. But I have some other information for me. I am a doctor. This is my job, and I can only tell you I do it with best conscience. Do you trust me or don't trust me? But I want to give you these informations. This is another, as I say, your child will die horribly, like 50 other children who have died horribly
Not helping, no.
Yeah, it's not really helping.
As you said before, the more pressure you exert, the more pressure they will return.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, we've got a question from an anonymous user. Can a person be talked out of a conspiracy or cult if they have not lost faith with it themselves first?
No. Not if it's really a part of their personality, and not if they get a lot out of it. It's always about what is the motivation that someone is in a cult or in some belief system. If it's important for them, if they have friends there, if they have meaning in life, if it gives them the hope for an afterlife, hope for medical improvement or something. So if they gain a lot out of it. And so it's why should they change it? Why? Then that it won't work. So there must be a change in their experience, in the view of this group from the person. Then your arguments or then your reasons can be very helpful, but it has to be on the right moment.
Under those circumstances, is it even possible? You made a reference to asking the right question earlier on. Is it even possible to ask a question to sow that first seed of doubt?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So even if they are 100% on board.
Yeah. That's sometimes I hear from time to time that someone said, for one conspiracy believer, when they said, why do you believe this? Why? And it's quite an innocent, normal question, but for this person, it was something that stayed with him, and he could not stop thinking about it. So sometimes it's sometimes really the small things that you did not really find important in a discussion, or but for it might be the one thing that people start to think about. So
So there is a tiny little bit of hope.
Yes. It does work. The problem is that you can't do it in a strategic way. So I say this question, and then I do this, and then do that, and then they will start to think. But you can spread out some sympathy, somewhere where I say no, this is for me totally anti-Semitic, and I don't know why you say things like that. I'm really shocked because I know you are not this kind of person. I don't understand how could you say something like that 5 years ago. You would be shocked if someone said it. What happened to you? Tell me that. I don't understand it. So this kind of conversation, sometimes a question that you say, that might help, but you can't do it in an analytical, 10 points of way.
Yeah, which is actually my problem with the street epistemology. Because there are some people out there who try to sell street epistemology as a cooking recipe on how to do this, and I think that's misleading. But that's a different subject we won't touch tonight.
I think the problem is if you go in a discussion, and you're not interested in the answers. If you ask a question and you're not interested in the answers, stop it. Mm-hmm. Then you are not the right person. Don't do it, because for your discussion, for your partner, they have a very good feeling if you're really interested in them, or if you're just doing asking question could be just a kind of manipulation tactic, or some show I'm so more knowledgeable than you, and it's sort of kind of a teacher-student situation, and I ask the questions, and this won't help. So really be interested in the answers. The answers are fascinating if you really give yourself time, and if you go further and further with your questions and deeper, it's a very interesting thing. But it could also be it's not easy because some things we don't want to hear, or it's hard, it's difficult, and people also skeptics want to have it easy in a discussion. So,
sure. Okay, we've got another question from Anonymous. How can we keep calm while people state views we find very objectionable? It's hard for me not to start an argument when people say, for example, Jewish people are evil.
Yeah. And I don't say you should smile and say, yes, why do you think that? No, you can say, this is unacceptable for me. But what is your goal? Is your goal to reach the person? Is it goal to maybe make a little difference, maybe a little nudge in the in their attitudes, then you have to use another strategy. Then it's better to not just to offend the person, not just to go into a counter aggressive move. You won't reach the person. That might be important if there are others listening. So if maybe an uncle is saying something and my nephews and nieces and other children or other people around of my family, maybe it is very important to be very clear and very hard, because I know they are listening and I want them to know this is not okay, not in our family. Then it might be a good strat. Then it might be good to be really clear and really hard. But if you want to reach them, you need to take a different approach.
Okay. Nadia is asking a question. What do you think are the key similarities and differences between sects and totalitarian regimes, in particular in terms of a personality cult? Mm-hmm. Is it just a matter of scale?
I think it's a good question, but this is a whole different topic. It's more about cult. It's about a cult-like. Good question, but this would be the next
okay, Skeptics. We'll leave that for another time then. Mm-hmm. Good. Another anonymous question. Governments and rich people have so many real skeletons in their closets. So why do conspiracy theorists always seem to invent fake ones instead?
They don't always invent fake ones. They use these skeletons. A lot of conspiracy theories are based on them, about scandals in pharmaceutical companies, so they're used. There are just even more interesting stories are about Echsenwesen, as I called in English. Don't know. About people from outer space and about the flat Earth. So it's about the good stories. I think the even better stories are sometimes the even more far-fetched. So it's also about storytelling.
Okay. Again, Nadia has got a question. Is it of benefit to have very charismatic people on the skeptical side, or could it just sway people from thinking critically on their own?
No, I think it's always important to have charismatic, but also people, empathic people. So people you like, people you find funny. That's why I think it's very good to use comedy or comedy elements in the communication of science. So when you can laugh with someone, you have a good connection, and then what they say is more easier to reach you.
Okay.
And also to have well-known people, to have prominent people in this movement is always important, because it's a lot of role models. To have women and men, to have all genders, all ethnic groups, very important.
Yeah, but as you said, I think there is this risk. You need the comedy for the mass communication when you talk to a lot of people, but as you said yourself, you don't want to ridicule or make unnecessary jokes when you're talking to a single person.
Yeah. Thank you for the clarification. It's not about ridicule, but it's really about bringing a bit of lightness into it, bringing a bit of making it interesting, funny.
Okay.
A good story, making a good story. It's also about storytelling. Science has so many really good stories, but to tell them, it's always to simplify them. And that's also problems if you talk about people's the personal experience of someone. It's never science. It's just an example of one people. But this is what we remember.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we've got another question from Anonymous. When a relative has progressed to political violence, how much do we try to talk to them before realizing it is hopeless and that we terminate all communication? Should we wait years, or what's the threshold?
Well, of course, there's no rule. it depends. Is this person also really difficult for the family? Is he very aggressive also in the family? Is it a problem for someone? Then we'll have to cut the contact. But if often they are not, the problem is not really in the family, but you just don't like this attitude. You don't want to be in contact with someone who is like that. And in this case, I would say on one hand, it's also good that you not just surround yourself with people who think just in your own way. So we all tend to be in our bubbles. So yes, then you have this one relative who is really difficult and we really have to struggle with. And if they change their views, it might take years. But you could, as a family, you could be a part of the change. It could be. And when they change, then the family is of the last they have left, because the groups, if you leave extremistic groups, you are always an outsider. You lose all your friends. You lose all contacts. And most of the time, they don't have other contacts, if it's really a close group, extremistic group. And then the family is always the last resort. And if it's possible, keep the contact. If it's possible to have really a relationship from person to person where you can put it aside. If that's not possible, you won't have the contact anymore. And you are not. I think also you have a right to take care of yourself and take care of your own children and your own family.
Yeah, you have to. Okay, Garnet has asking the next question. When do you feel the other person? When you feel the other person may have some underlying issue that led to the belief, should you just walk away or should you err on the side of caution and continue to help?
Yeah, well, if you have the energy and the patience, always help. Well, this might be a very good road to success if you can identify the core problem, and then you don't talk about the ideology, but about the real problem. The real problem might be loneliness, might be a feeling of loss of control, of feeling lost in a world of injustice. So if you can, if you know this, the core problem, it's all you have. It's quite a big part of success. And if you can connect to this person, this might be really helpful.
Okay. We have got another anonymous question. I found that a conspirator will sometimes be faced with the prospect that they have wasted a significant chunk of their life. Does that happen often? And what do you do if it happens?
Yes, it really happens often. And it's very, very, very painful. And that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to leave ideological groups when you stayed there for quite some time and when you've put into it a lot of effort, money, energy, because you have to face the hard truth that a big part of your life has gone and a big part of that you have lost a lot. And people really grieve about this, and it's hard for them, and they lose faith in themselves, and that's really, sometimes it takes years to recover from something like that. And it could also be conspiracy news, because it's so. People say, "How can I have faith in me ever again? I was so sure of it, and it's so shameful to, and I have to face people, my family or others or colleagues, and it's really not easy. One of the hardest thing to do is to acknowledge that you have been wrong.
Yeah. Okay, we've got another question from Anonymous. You say, think of what worked to persuade you. But for many skeptics, that's facts and reason that persuade us. I wonder if that might work for some not yet skeptical.
Facts work when you want them to work. So, yeah. If you're not interested in because there are other good reasons why you don't want them to work, then they won't. So it's not about good facts work. It's just about what are you willing to think about? What are you willing to hear? It's about always the confirmation bias. You build your worldview and then you try to keep it. So, and there has to happen something that you dare to question yourself and your own belief system.
Yeah. We got a question from Hassan. He's asking, do you know of a big example for somebody who made lots of money out of conspiracy theory?
Yeah, one of the biggest of all is certainly Donald Trump, who does a lot of fundraising with his kind of conspiracy theories. But there are a lot of others too. And often it's about collecting donations. They have some important case and please donate to this site, or they get money because they get a lot of traffic on their social media sites and do advertisements. There are quite a lot of one is Ivo Sasek is one in Swiss, but there are certainly a lot more. Or sometimes they could be some, I don't know, prominent cook or influencer, and it helps them to get a community.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're nearly at the end. I'll talk about the pet question first. We normally always have a question. Do you have a pet? Can it come into camera? But you're giving this from your office today, so there's obviously no pets around. And I'm sorry, maybe the next speaker. So last two questions. Controversial question from Igor. And he says you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Is it morally okay to punch a Nazi? Literally or metaphorically?
I think it's just something that you do for yourself, not for the other person.
Okay, good. And the last question is from Monica. She says, your book sounds great, but why doesn't the English version have a fun unicorn person cartoon on it?
There's a conspiracy. There's a conspiracy that is stealing unicorns out of book covers.
Okay, the unicorn comic reaper. I understand. So thank you very much. That was fun. I hope you enjoyed your time too. I hope the Twitch channel is going crazy with applause. I rely on you guys. Good. Before we leave, I want to talk about the next talk. We'll have a next talk in 2 weeks' time, February 9th. We're looking forward to welcoming Jack Lawrence, who will give us a talk about ivermectin for COVID-19, a tale of science gone wrong. So I think we're all looking forward to this one. I hope you will all join again. Again, I remind you of our virtual pub. SitP.online/virtual pub is the link if you need it directly. And before we leave you, I want to thank Cleo, who was helping me with the questions in the background, and Malcolm and Igor, who were available or were responsible for the technical feed today. The biggest thank you, of course, as always, has to go to our speaker, Ulrike Schiesser. So once again, please, lots of applause in the chat.
Thank you for having me, even with my strange Viennese accent.
Other than that, I'll leave you and we'll see you next time. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay skeptical. Bye.